This is The Body's Compass with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Daniela Mallozzi, talking about family constellations and the body's infinite intelligence. Now let's join this week's episode.
Welcome to The Body's Compass. I am your host, Matt. Today, very special individual is joining me, Miss Daniela. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias, lindo. ¿Cómo estás tú?
Todo está bien para mí. Creo que hablamos en inglés, si todo está bien contigo.
Por supuesto. Poquito inglés, poquito español. Estoy muy feliz para ser aquí. I'm very
and
happy
a few
to
words
be.
in German.
Yeah. Ich liebe dich. It's good to be here, Matt.
So, Daniela,
Entonces,
just so the listeners can get to know you a little bit more,
yeah,
and just have a bit of a deeper sense to who you are and everything we're going to talk about, how that's going to be influenced by your viewpoints. Can you share a little overview of what has shaped you as a woman and what has got you into the healing arts?
great question, Matt. What has shaped me as a woman? Life, trauma, love. I believe my purpose in this world is to find joy within myself and to be a joyful presence in this world, and on a healing front, to help humans avoid unnecessary suffering, unnecessary operations and medications. That's the short answer.
Amen to that. And what was the catalyst for you to get down that route?
Another good question. 7 major traumas from the age of 11 to 22, each one major in their own right, as is all trauma, having a significant impact on the nervous system. And I just, through that process, was able to go down so many medical paths, and often to no true avail. Each one, of course, helped a little bit, and each one did the best they could. But after realizing that I didn't feel my healing was going to come from the medical place, I then traveled the world. And through traveling and reading and experiencing alternative therapy, I was able to experience healing in a very short, efficient time, which my brain's very happy about. I like fast results. I've got things to do. Let's get things done. And after realizing that healing is an inside job and happiness is an inside job, I made it my mission to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, so a lot of ways both our journeys are really paralleled, haven't they? I haven't had, touch wood, any major illnesses myself, but as you know, the story with my dad being the catalyst for my little journey, we'll call it. But you've been in there head first yourself. What did you find was the biggest aha moment?
When I was feeling, for want of a better word, the victim mentality of why me? Why did all that happen to me? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? I suddenly realized, for me, the catalyst was actually a course I did. It was a 3-day course when I was 23. And I had a light bulb moment that the trauma that I went through isn't actually what's hurting me today. It was my thoughts about the trauma. That for me was like a game changer. I realized that in that moment, I was hurting myself because I was considering the trauma, reliving the trauma, PTSD, whatever you want to call it. So I realized that when I could reframe that trauma, try and understand it from a more emotionally intelligent way, understanding that only hurt people, and that I must have been at a lower frequency to allow lowered frequency things to happen on some level. It's not about blame or shame. It's about acknowledging and understanding so we can release. And that takes us nicely to Family Constellations, which is the simplest healing process I've ever found. And one of my biggest traumas, it wasn't being stabbed or beaten up, or as many people may think, it was actually being estranged from my mum for 22 years, which is still present and prevalent. And family constellations, as we glide swiftly into that subject, was a game changer. I went to a workshop in 2022, and within 4 minutes, I was able to get a healing with this representative of my mother, more so than any psychedelics, vision quest, sweat lodge, vipassana, all these things that I did to try and find my mum inside myself again. I couldn't find her. She wasn't there because she wasn't there physically, and I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say. And through Family Constellations, I got to say a few phrases which acknowledged the pain and separation and allowed this beautiful release. So now when I talk about her, and don't get me wrong, I have some days where I might be like, oh, it's my mom, and I wonder how it might unfold, or very rare. It's like 1%, 2% of those human thoughts, as I like to call it. The rest is a deeply compassionate understanding and awareness that she must not be very well in herself, and there's a part of me that will always just love her because she gave me life, and in someone's right mind they act right. Simple as that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's a funny, another little kind of parallel with the mum thing, because I lost my mum early in life. And growing up, I couldn't tell you how old, but teenage, when the hormones are doing what hormones do. I decided to be the victim unconsciously to get the sympathy for that, realizing that it's probably easier to play victim than to be sad about the whole thing. But then I had to come to the realization that it's a bit of a paradox, because when you're playing victim, you're also villainizing yourself. And all that suppression can only really build up to one thing eventually, and that's build up of pressure, and pressure eventually just explodes. So I think it's an important archetype to have. It's got a shadow and it's also got a light aspect. But you were mentioning the family constellations. How long ago did you do that?
2022. So by then I'd already been doing
COVID.
Yeah. Became a practitioner in 2022. Did my first workshop, and in full Daniela style, full steam ahead. Thought, wow, I need to help people with this. And I'd already over a decade of trauma-informed coaching. And I realized quite simply that if somebody is operating from an egoic standpoint, they're looking for protection, pleasure, and survival. If they're operating from their heart, it's more acceptance, peace, and love. Both are necessary and both are fun. Both are important. But for me, family constellations cut out the middlemen of, if people, I've not taken them myself, but like antidepressants, I went the other alternative path of drugs. But if people are taking antidepressants, paracetamols, anti-inflammatories, they're trying to suppress the pressure, as you say. I like that analogy. The pressure needs to come out in some way, in some form. And so psychotherapy, life coaching, talk therapy, EMDR, all these things have a place. But for me, what I love about family constellations is it allows for acknowledgement and release, which is the ultimate path of peace. And it's so simple yet profound. Simply saying one phrase, I miss you. I've never been the same since you left. You are my mother. I am your daughter. That will never change. Like, even saying it now, I'm not even in the field, but I can feel my throat feeling all warm and fuzzy, because these are truths that as children we know, and as adults we need to remember that there's a little person inside of us, a little child that hears everything we think and feels everything we feel. And your little Matt was hurt when you lost your mum. You didn't know how to navigate. No one gave you a book on life anyway, let alone life without your mother who gave you life. And your mother is a direct link to success, flow, your body, money, energy. So it makes sense that you would have dropped into victimhood. And I think it's a necessary step, victimhood. But some people, unfortunately, they get stuck there. They may not have the manual or the support to get out of that. And for me, family constellations is simple, easy.
Yeah, I think it sets up a lot of people to it sets up a lot of people to make it easier for them to stay the victim or the saboteur, because then you can fall into the trap of, with the victim or the saboteur, you get other physical symptoms related to that. And it's different for everyone how it's expressed. But I think then people become unconsciously in love with those symptoms because they get the sympathy, they get the power play, and they can use it as leverage against others. Have you found similar?
People become comfortably uncomfortable, and then having that bad back means that maybe hubby makes the dinner a bit more than he would have. Having the bad back might make the teenage child a little bit more sympathetic and therefore less aggressive. Humans are so intelligent. I love the constellations process because it allows generations of intelligence to awaken, enliven, and flow. Because we are so intelligent. If a person doesn't know how to get attention in a positive way, they'll get it in a negative way. Just like a screaming child. If their dads and mums are shouting at them all the time, but not giving them enough praise and love, the child will often display energy to get more of the anger because that's the highest energy point. So they're not saying, I want my parents to be angry with me. They're saying, I want the most amount of attention I can get. And as an adult, I believe that we're the same when it comes to our sickness. Our sickness can be our greatest strength, really, if we don't understand what's going on, because our sickness garners sympathy, attention. I'll never forget one of my clients went through a cancer journey. And she said to me, you're the only one who hasn't looked at me like doomed when I told you that I had cancer. I said, that's because cancer is an intelligence for me in the body to get you back to self-love, which is homeostasis, the body's natural state of harmony or calm. And I believe cancer is the opposite of self-love. And through our process, she was crying, saying that when her cancer had started, she had all this attention from the nurses and the doctors. She had meetings and they were phoning her, checking she was okay. But the moment she was cancer-free, all the phone calls stopped, all the sympathy stopped because she was fixed. And she realized that it was through the cancer process that she learned it was the love and attention that she was getting externally that she now wanted to allow internally. And I believe that sickness is a strength if you understand how to respond to it. And as we were talking about before, a lot of people don't. So they tend to get stuck. And they don't have to.
You just reminded me of a client I saw that I think it's stage 2 cancer or 3, I can't remember. But she was very straight to the point kind of person, and like, this is what I need help with. I've got this cancer. I said, congratulations, you've just met your biggest teacher. Now it's time to start listening to your teacher. And worked through a lot of stuff, and she ended up moving away, but she's still going strong. But these things do manifest physically, and every condition has its own story, and we wear our story, right?
Absolutely. We are the result of the story we keep telling ourselves. So if we want a different reality, we have to change our personality and therefore change the stories that govern us.
Daniela, in case people have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, can you explain what the whole family constellation thing is about?
I'll give you the short version, okay? Bert Hellinger, a German psychotherapist, created and developed family constellations in the 80s and 90s. This beautiful man never had biological children, but he had this deep desire to allow peace to flow more easily through people in the world. And I deeply resonate with that on both counts. He was a parish priest at first, and then he was a missionary in South Africa, head teacher of a boys' school, and he kept on seeing this discomfort, this difficulty unravel with communication with the children, with the boys, with the missionary people. He quickly realized that through just acknowledging how somebody feels, he was able to access a part of them that seemed to link to their parents or their grandparents or their family. It always seemed to go back to something they were missing with their mother or wanting from their father. So quite simply, he realized healing doesn't have to be long and hard. And once you acknowledge certain phrases, which is kind of like the language of the soul, it enables a very quick response for the body to return back to healing. And he uses people in the room to represent family members. These people then step into this morphogenetic field, the net and web that encompasses all of us. I like to often explain that field as, and remind everyone that they know what that field is. Have you ever had a thought about somebody and suddenly they appear? Or you think about someone and then bang, they text you the next day. That's the morphogenetic field. Mediums, psychics, we're tapping into that field maybe a bit more easily, or because we're focused on it more than some. But that field is the field that these strangers in this workshop step into. And as they step into this imaginary circle, they suddenly take on certain experiences of that person's mother, father, grandfather, ancestor. And they may experience emotion, empathy, anger, pain, sadness. And it's temporary because as soon as they step out of that field, they step out of that circle, it's gone. And we shake it off. We do a little bit of, light-hearted movement in between each workshop. This Sunday, for example, I've got it in Newtown, and we're going to have a small intimate group because it is like group therapy. We're all supporting each other. So there's some people that get the focus ticket where we explore their family, and other people that may not be quite ready to do that, or like you said, don't know what Family Constellations is. They buy the community ticket, which gives them a chance to dip their toes in, experience the field, represent other people's families and support them with their healing. And everyone gets the nervous system regulation, breath work support we do at the beginning. And everyone's lighter and brighter. But in short, when people represent someone else's family member, something magical happens. And words do not do it justice. They really don't. I believe that you have to experience this for yourself. Like the words that my mother said, the representative of my mother in that workshop that was my game changer, were words that I can completely imagine her saying. They were true to the situation that I have had with my mum. And how would she have known that? How would they have known that? It's like when I have a mediumship connection. How would I have known that that person died at that time, or that person needed to give that message? I don't know. There's something quite deliciously divine in the unseen, mysterious world that we live in. And Family Constellations taps into that in some beautiful, peaceful, precious way, and allows healing to happen for people to express what they need to express to family members that they may never be able to actually express that to in real life. As I said, it's hard to explain. What's the short version?
Mm. Have you heard of the book It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wallin?
Sounds familiar. I haven't read it, but that does sound familiar. Yes.
It's about inherited family trauma, where the idea that unresolved trauma from our parents, grandparents, I think as far back as maybe 21 generations back, can be passed down to us biologically and psychologically, showing up as anxiety, depression, phobias, chronic pain, self-destructive patterns, all the stuff that most people can't really explain. But he draws on epigenetics, neuroscience, and the family systems therapy to argue that we can carry the emotional and physiological imprints of traumas that we never personally experienced. Not just as like a metaphor, but research suggests that trauma can alter the gene expression across gene generations. What's your thoughts on
I
that?
love epigenetics, getting above epi. Genes are genes. I believe we are not slaves to our genes, but they are a wonderful map and a blueprint. And it's up to us to switch them on, switch them off, or just allow them. And neuroscience, the study of the body and the nervous system, is just next level necessary information. I believe that should be the heart pinnacle of health. And the three orders of love that Bert Hellinger fundamentally developed and designed is that unresolved issues, number one, will always pass down some way, some form. Everybody in the family system belongs, and whoever came first in the system ranks highest. So absolutely, it means that there could be some unresolved issues within our 12 to 21,000 lineage within our grandfather's line. And we just keep on having these problems with addiction. So, for example, if there's addictions within our ancestral line, we might find that no matter what we're doing, we just can't seem to get a hold of that habit or that process within ourselves. And then through seeing some hidden dynamics unravel through family constellations or whatever else might allow that, you get to realize, oh, some of this is mine, but some of this is what I've carried. Because we do have the same cells in us that we have in our family. They're still there. My mother may not be in my life physically, but I carry her every single day. And if I don't absorb and acknowledge her peacefully, then I may have an unpeaceful reality because I am reflecting aspects of my mother through my life. So yes, epigenetics is very important. Dr. Bruce Lipton is my number one go-to for that explanation, and Dr. Joe Dispenza for neuroscience. I love his New York accent, the way he explains things, your personality, depicts your personal reality. And I love how he just makes it simple to understand that what we think creates what we feel, and what we feel creates what we are.
And also how we experience it and how we relate to it.
Well, how you feel inside controls everything, impacts everything. Full stop. Doesn't matter how good your life is on the outside. You might have houses, investment properties, the perfect picture perfect family, an expensive car. But inside, if you've got turmoil or you're feeling unrest or uncertainty, it doesn't really matter what the external looks like. How you feel impacts everything.
But also how you feel inside could potentially muddy the picture on the outside, because you might have it all, but you might still be unhappy because in your perception, you're going to see the outside through your own inner filter. It just reminded me of a Carl Jung quote.
Yeah, go on.
Carl Jung said that something you said before you went off at me. And I just switched off when you were doing that. But something Carl Jung said was, Carl Jung said, I'm going to paraphrase it, all children are living the unmet lives of their parents.
On that, Mr. Carl Jung, if I may expand, all children are constantly and consistently looking for the approval of love and acknowledgement from their parents. Like all children want to be told, I love you, you're doing a great job, and I'm proud of you. There's not one human that would not want to hear that from their parents, which is why if we don't get that from our dad, we don't get the I'm proud of you from our dad, we may find another role model, a boss, a mentor, an army sergeant, lieutenant. We might even be in the prison system because they tell us they're proud of us when we go through certain processes. So we're always looking for that approval. And that's why, as you say, the inner world impacts everything, right? If you're giving yourself that approval, to some degree, that can start unmuddying those waters inside. I'm proud of you, Matt. I love you, Matt. You look in the mirror. I'm proud of you. You're doing a great job. This was a great podcast. You're doing great. Life is good. I'm enjoying watching you grow. If we have that self-awareness and self-talk, then we start to crave it a little bit less. It's not that we don't want it anymore, but we're now providing the water in the well where it might be empty from our family, because you're internalizing some feelings. It's good. Imagine this: our grandfather's grandfather fought in wars, maybe had famine, starvation, and when we look in the mirror, some people look at their body. Oh, let's go the other way. The grandmother had love, passion, forgiveness, joy. And just imagine that you can trace both of those kind of energies through all of your family line. when somebody looks in the mirror, instead of looking at the wisdom hairs and the lifelines and the body seemingly changing as we get older, how about looking in the mirror and realizing that you are looking at generations of intelligence, decades of divine, infinite realities of people that you are infinitely and eternally connected to? That for me makes it easy to always see that you are beautiful, handsome, worthy, because you are a result of so many people that came before you. And I feel like us honoring ourselves and doing what we both spoke about before the recording of this started, having as much joy as possible. Life is joyful. I believe that that's our way of honoring our family and our ancestors.
I mean, it took an entire universe to create us, each one of us. I think most people lose sight of the fact that it's an absolute freaking miracle that we're even here. To start, we have infinite intelligence. We are created from infinite intelligence. With all of that potential, we focus typically on that 1% thing that isn't quite right in our own perception in life. And that becomes our entire reality, our whole day.
It's the nature of humans to focus on negatives. They tried to bring out positive news channel in Germany and it just didn't get many views. And that fascinated me in terms of neuroscience. Why is it that and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, why do you think humans seem to respond more to negative posts on social media or trauma, war? Why do we react more or seem to want to interact with that more?
I think part of it is conditioning. We're brought up in, from our parents and their parents, etc., to watch the news, be addicted to social media. We've got to know what's going on in the world. And whatever's shown to us by the media is death, doom and gloom. So we're exposed to that information a lot more than the nice, warm, fuzzy opposite side of that. And I tell patients all the time, if you want 80% of your problems of life to disappear, turn off the news for 30 days. But also I think it goes down more of a primal sense where we are wired to focus on what's wrong in an environment to see what's missing. Back to hunting, gathering days. Because if something wasn't right in the environment, then that could potentially save our lives. So it is there in a way to serve, but I think we've gone a little bit too far with it. And we haven't developed other skills to counter it.
So we are wired for survival for sure, but I believe it also fires up more brain chemicals. I'm obsessed with brain chemicals. And I'd be curious, do you have colors related to your brain chemicals? Let's see if we have the same colors. I'm just going to say these to you and you tell me if you can see or feel a color or sense a color. So when you think of serotonin, do you have a color?
Yellow.
Yes, yellow.
Yellow.
Serotonin is our happy chemical. 90% approximately is produced in our stomach, which is why gut health is so important. What about dopamine? Oh, endorphins are our natural anti-inflammatory receptors, and they get released along with myokin, a new protein found in the muscles, when we exercise predominantly, when we walk, when we move, when we do strength training. Have you heard of this myokin protein?
Heard myokin's produced in the brain when you do a particular movement and doesn't hurt where it previously did.
And it's
so it produces a happy response within the brain. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Dopamine, what color?
Yep. Dopamine. I've got a darker blue.
Yeah. So for me, dopamine is blue. That's interesting. Why is it that we see these? What's the association? And now oxytocin. And for anyone listening,
like a
dopamine.
pink.
Yes, oxytocin is pink. Isn't that interesting? I've asked so many people this, and 80% of us say the same colors. So that would incite that if we actually wear some more of those particular colors, we could invite some of that energy in. And I like to try and tick off my brain chemicals every day. I'm like, have I had enough myokine endorphins released? Nope. Okay. I need to go for a walk. I need to do some strength training today. Oxytocin. Have I hugged someone today? Have I given someone a compliment? Have I stroked a dog or played with my cat enough? Cuddled with my cat? Serotonin. Have I picked up some rubbish on the floor, fed the pigeons, made someone's life a little bit easier, learned a little bit more of my piano? I try to tick off these brain chemicals every day, and I find that the more I can tick off, or even, one tiny little tick in each box, which is dopamine hit, of course, because achieving tasks. I love to write lists, to write lists, to write lists. And then when I cross off those lists, I'm like, yes, come on, dopamine hit. So brain chemicals, I think, are beautiful. And we are 80%.
With the brain chemicals, could you also include that, like eating a yellow food, for example?
Yeah. Well, that takes us to another conversation, because the yellow banana gives us the potassium, and we are like a fish tank. I believe we are the fish in the tank. We need vitamin C, potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and all of those elements are the different aspects of the fish tank. Now, imagine a fish in a tank with nothing, maybe a tiny bit of water. It would have a very low existence, a very boring, shallow life. But now we increase the water, increase the filtration system, we add a bit of decoration. Now we put some food in there, we put in some minerals, and we add in some other fish. This is, for me, an analogy for life. We are the fish. The tank represents our cells. We've got approximately 33 trillion of those bad boys. And the vitamins and minerals. Don't you think it's funny when you're a kid, if someone said to you, you should take some vitamin C, you'd laugh, right? You'd be like, what? I don't have any resonance with that whatsoever. You should eat your broccoli. It's good for you. No, I don't want my broccoli. But as an adult, we don't directly see what any of these supplements do for us, but we know innately we should be taking that. We should be taking that. And each of us are different. That's why I believe we should really trust that divine intelligence within us, because we know, we get sensations. My client came in yesterday and she said, my husband doesn't do anything spiritual or healthy, but every day he takes zinc. And I said, why do you think he does that? She goes, he just says he knows he needs it. And I said, look at that. This man is not connected to any level of spiritual connection or health necessarily, but there's a part of him that knows he's got to take his zinc. And what was I going to say about the supplements? Yeah, so I had this meditation. I get some really good downloads in silent meditation. And I said, how do I know if my supplements are working? I take a certain amount of supplements. How do I know if they're working? And in my meditation, I got this profoundly beautiful answer. Daniela, you won't necessarily know if they're working, but if you stop taking them, you'll know that your body will slow down in working. You'll notice them when you stop taking them. For me, that means taking these supplements is slowing down the degeneration of my body and my brain and aging. And as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, all aging is a product of poor protein production. So by taking these supplements, I'm keeping my cellular walls integrity intact. So I'm slowing down that aging process. So I may not notice that taking the vitamin C, calcium, the zinc, fish oils, I may not notice it, but when I stop taking them, I might notice a regression. Thought that was magical. What do you reckon?
Well, I've got a lot to say about supplements, but we'll run out of battery long before we get through to that. But yeah, I think supplements certainly have their place. My take is prefer food.
Problem
But
is,
yeah,
Matt,
absolute time and place.
our soil was destroyed after World War II by glyphosate, Roundup, and DDT. So you show me some really nutrient-dense soil, and I'll get enough of my zinc, vitamin C, B12, potassium from my avocados, my bananas, my nuts, seeds, and lentils. it's not as nutrient dense as it ever has been. So unless you're eating a really
But then
high,
where does your supplements come from?
well, it works both ways. I think there's got to be some sort of a balance. And I'm not necessarily saying that everybody needs supplements, but that's the word. They're supplementing aspects that we may not be getting within our food. And yeah, I worry that if we rely on one or the other, we're not going to get that balance impact and input. Place for both.
Well, as I said, there's a time and place for both. Again, I could be here all day talking on that. One question I do have for you:
Love good questions. Get good
when a
answers.
client comes to you and they say they get this intuitive sense of they have this pattern, but they know it's not actually theirs. How do you know when a pattern isn't actually that person's?
When they're able to stop doing it. Simple.
So if it's theirs, you would say they can't stop doing it?
Well, you can always stop doing it, but a habit is only a habit until you realize you're doing it, and then it becomes a choice. So if somebody's doing something unconsciously, they're not aware that they're doing that pattern. I believe that helping them to maybe highlight and understand where that pattern's coming from. Is it coming from an unresolved issue, trauma, generational pattern within my family? Oh, now I understand it. Now I have more capacity to change it. Or is it something that I'm doing as a trauma response to something that's happened in my life? Is it something that I'm doing to receive a certain amount of nervous system balance? So like if someone's doing drugs, smoking, drinking, they're doing that because there's an intelligence in them that's saying, I want to feel better, but I don't know how to feel better. So they might drink and numb themselves. They might, take drugs and separate from reality for a moment. It's not to be judged, it's to be understood that they're searching for something that they're not finding naturally. So once they understand what it is that they're searching for, once they understand the challenge or the pattern, I believe they're more likely able to change it or be in control of it.
What kind of issues would you say respond best to constellations, family constellations?
I'd say things that relate to the relationships with our family, parents directly. So body issues, depression, low self-worth, anxiety, problems with money flowing. Again, that's linked to the self-worth, self-esteem aspect. Relationship difficulties. And then on the dad side, habits, addictions, mind imbalances, problems with public speaking, stutters, problems with communication tend to relate to the mother, the dad. People that like public speaking tend to have a stronger absorption of their father or a healthier relationship with him to some degree. And I'd say the classic things that often people go to talk therapy for: depression, anxiety, low self-worth, the inability to feel safe within relationships. Because ultimately, if we don't feel safe within the relationship with our parents, we don't feel safe with relationships with others. How we relate to our parents is how we relate to ourselves and life.
Oh, 100%. And it's, I remember again from Jungian psychology that how we relate to the outside world, the psychology of that is wired by the same-sex parent. But when we're alone by ourselves, the wiring is from the opposite sex parent.
That's interesting. And on that, I heard something that when you're in a relationship with someone, the first 6 months, you are embodying the essence of one of your parents. And then after 6 months, you change into the embodiment of the other parent. That one was a bit of a mind blower. And I love Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So for example, when I changed the way I saw my mum, I was able to allow my business to flow more easily. I was more successful. Money was more attainable and maintainable because I was able to let my relationship with her inside of me flow, even though physically she's still not here and still doesn't want to be here with me or my brother or anyone else. It's not just one person. She's cut off everybody. And instead of me feeling angry or hurt by that, I have deep level compassion of, I can't even imagine how that would be. I can't even imagine. And it's like it's moved me out of the sadness of why don't I have a mother to I'm so grateful that I had a mother. I had her for 22 years. She gave me life through risking her own life. And through that, I started to honor my own life more easily. I changed the way I was looking at my relationship with her, and suddenly everything started to change.
It's amazing, isn't it? Just a little perspective shift can
It's beautiful. Life is a
flip the whole
beautiful
world in a good
mess.
way. Mm.
Exactly. It's a beautiful mess. And it's a game that we can change
It
at
is.
any.
It is a beautiful mess. Yeah.
I'm very grateful to be here. I act like every day is my last day. This could be the last podcast I ever do, and I'm very grateful to you. I'm very grateful to your questions. I'm grateful for the one meal that I might choose to have today. I'm grateful to my digestive system. I'm grateful to the next client that comes in because it might be the last. I treat each day like it is an absolute honorable gift that I have been granted by my ancestors. I look in the mirror and I honor each and every one of them by the thoughts that I choose to think when I look at my body and my life and myself. And I'm really grateful to be here. Gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership too, so it's a bonus. The more grateful I feel, the more things I get to be grateful about.
Amen. If someone feels like something in their life isn't fully theirs, what's the first step someone can take?
What they're getting from that thought. Everybody always does what they do to feel better. So sometimes people are having a particular thought because they're gaining something from that. So I would ask them straight away, what are you gaining from that thought, from that feeling? And if you were to have the opposite of that, which is what you actually want, what would you then gain? I'd work from that from a coaching perspective. Because often what we don't want is highlighting what we do
Yeah,
want, the opposite.
exactly. Exactly. There's got to be two sides to a coin. And even anxiety, there's something in there for you, even if it's, as you said, showing you what you don't want. So therefore you can show what you do want, but showing you where you're at. So you can
Anxiety,
investigate that and get back on to.
exactly. I love that you said that, Matt. Anxiety, I believe, is a friend. Cancer is a friend. Nobody wants those friends, but they're friends. They can be bullies. But guess what? Bullies get bored if you're no longer a victim. And anxiety, for me, can be an awesome opportunity to get closer to your heart. You know, when I do public speaking or
Absolutely, yeah.
I sing on stage or I'm dancing on stage, and people ask me, "Do you get nervous?" And I said, "No, I get excited." Because the body experiences nerves and
Mm.
excitement in the exact same way. The biological reaction of nervousness and excitement is the same. So then look into anxiety. When I get really excited and overwhelmed, my heart will start palpitating. I might have a little sweat. My mind might become overwhelming. Well, isn't that some aspect of anxiety? So I believe anxiety is trying to offer us another road into peace and balance. Chaos can be turned to calm. Damage can be turned to divinity. Trauma can be turned to triumph. I like a bit of rhyming. It makes it easier and simpler and sweeter. But anxiety, when like what you said, I loved what you said when someone said, I have cancer, and you said, congratulations, you've just met your best teacher. When someone says to me, I suffer with anxiety, and no, they say, my anxiety. And I said, well, if you went shopping, would you consciously choose anxiety as a product and put it in your trolley? And they go, no. I said, well, let's stop identifying with it. It's not yours. It's an experience that you're having. And if you understand that it's just a passing experience, you no longer identify it as a personality. It's not yours. It's something that's just passing through. And what is yours is the gift that anxiety is trying to give you. That's the real beauty in discomfort. That there's a lesson in there. If you said to me, Daniela, you really pushed my buttons when you said that, or who put the button there? What was there for me to push? Where did that come from? So when someone triggers me, I say thank you. Thank you very much. You've just reminded me that there's an aspect of me that still needs a bit of work. Triggers are unhealed wounds.
It's funny you say that because I was listening to a psychology lecture years ago, and it just stuck with me. And it was, do you know why your parents push your buttons so much? Because they're the ones that built them.
Yeah. But it's imagine that someone hurts you,
It's like,
pisses you off, or upset you, and you say, thank you. That's hard.
yeah, and it takes quite a strong spirit and soft ego to get to that.
I believe
And
self-discipline is
most
the
people,
form of self-love. Self-discipline.
yeah,
So if you're going to have that glass of wine, why not try to build a bit of discipline by leaving one sip at the bottom? If you're smoking a cigarette and you're going to go and smoke that last cigarette puff, just choose to put it out. Your ego will go, no, I want that last puff. I want that last sip. I want to watch another episode before I go to bed. But if you start carving out a part of your brain that says, no, that's enough. I'm going to bed at this time. No, something starts happening. You become the authority. Therefore, you become the father. And I believe in life we should be 80% healthy and 20% whatever we want. My number is 94. She says, I said, how do you stay so healthy and strong at 94? Daniela, I am a good 80% over the time and 20% a little bit naughty. It's good for Nonna, it's good for me. So that's what I teach my clients essentially. It's to be a little bit disciplined each day. Discipline builds inner metal. We have the corpus callosum with dendrites either side of it. And I describe that quite simply as a tree with branches. Whatever you think repeatedly, and we have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, they start to build these branches, and the branches get thicker and thicker and thicker, which is when you identify with yourself. Oh, I am this, I am that. Well, no, you are a result of what you're thinking and doing repeatedly. So if you start carving out those disciplinarian moments each day, you start weakening some of those dendrites. They never go. As you talk to addicts of 20 years sober, they still in the back of their head have a drink today, have that crack pipe or that joint or whatever it is they want. It's always in the back of their mind. But because they've now carved out discipline, they've got stronger pathways that now feed the brain than those addictive ones. It's not about being perfect. It's about being disciplined with balance. That's what I believe.
it's also interesting that, so I had a client last year who she had lost close to 40 kilos in a 12-month period, but she had all this skin left over. So she had the surgery to get the skin removed. And every time she went shopping, she had to get all new clothes, but she still saw the same version of her, say, 2 years prior to that, which just goes to show those fibers within the brain, they're still there.
Well, look, I can say a lot about that as well, because I've had a couple of clients tell me that they've lost weight using the weight loss injection, Ozempic. I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to criticize. I'm here to love and help you love yourself. Something I've noticed, though, is if a person is using something like that to get to a certain point so that it's then easily maintainable to remain at said point of health, that's okay. But what worries me and concerns me is that we're taking these injections, we're losing weight rapidly, but we're not losing the weight of the thoughts that built the weight in the first place. We're not doing the work that says,
Exactly.
oh, I've earned this. I've earned this. I lost that weight and I've earned this, and I deserve to have maybe that operation to reduce the skin, or I've earned the body that I get to now be in. So again, I think there's a place for medicine, there's a place for doctors, there's a place for alternative. But I think that the journey is the magic. Like, I'm not sad that I had 7 traumas. I'm grateful that those opportunities gave me the pathway to coming back to myself, because maybe if I didn't have those traumas, I wouldn't have ever had this deep connection to myself, this deep level of self-love and appreciation. So I believe it's the journey of putting on the weight where you lose yourself, maybe to some degree, and then it's the journey of dropping the weights and maintaining a healthy lifestyle 80% of the time that will give you the real results. So this beautiful woman that you're talking about, she dropped the weight, but what weight in her mind did she allow? to connect with that weight loss, but then understood that the skin was just a result of that amazing journey that she's allowed herself to go on.
Yes, as Carol and Miss would said, the more psychic weight you have, the more psychic weight you have.
I'm reading her book at the moment. It's on my bath. It's my bath book.
Oh, phenomenal woman. You also do manual therapy and coaching.
Yeah.
What kind of manual therapy
I do a
are
targeted
we
muscle corrective therapy. It's an advanced sports massage. I studied sports massage in England and some Indian head massage, reflexology, but I realized I didn't just want to relax people. I wanted to actually help them. And I wasn't sure to go into osteo, chiro, or physio. And the universe responded to my answer, my question, and allowed me to meet this wonderful gentleman, John Benatti, who worked as a sports massage therapist at the Australian Institute of Sport. And over a few years, he gained deeper knowledge from the osteos, physios, and chiros and developed muscle corrective therapy, which is an advanced sports massage that locates the root cause of muscle problems, allowing the body to go back to its baseline. And I absolutely love this work. 12 years in, and I love every single muscle problem and helping the body realign. It's really good for things like frozen shoulder, tennis elbow, plantar fasciitis, knee, hip restrictions. It's good to understand where they're coming from at a baseline. And usually somebody needs 4 to 6 sessions for me to return them back to baseline. It's pretty remarkable. I wish I could find someone to do that to me. On May 12th, offering muscle corrective therapy on a Tuesday morning. Le Cure is a wonderful studio in Caringbah. They've got cryotherapy, saunas, cosmetic surgery type things, and facial supports. And they're very kind of sports development, recreational healing place. And so, yeah, I'll be there Tuesday mornings from May 12th, offering 6 packs for people to develop that body baseline. I really love my work. And also nothing's there without it being psychosomatic. So the life coaching of 12, 13 years has given me a chance to help people understand where that muscle problem might be coming from, why it's originating, what it needs you to know. And then that helps the muscle problem get healed even quicker, saving people money and time. I'm here to help as many people as I can. So that is a great therapy for me. I like your questions, Matt.
Amen to that, sister. Daniela, feel free to share any final comments where people can find you and learn more if they want to explore working with you.
Thanks, Matt. Well, my tagline name is Daniela, the Happiness Queen. And I believe that's because happiness is a conscious choice and a doorway to peace. So you can find me on Instagram at Daniela with just one L. Daniela, the Happiness Queen. And I'm www.thehappinessqueen.com. Feel free to reach out. I've got a workshop coming up this Sunday in Newtown at Temple on the Park, Sunday the 12th of April. And I offer muscle corrective therapy, life coaching, breath work, nervous system regulation, and mediumship one-on-one in my studio in Engadine. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. If I could give one tip, if I was never going to meet a person, and I could just give them one tip for happiness, it would be that your internal world shapes everything. So carve out a little bit of time each day to become familiar with yourself, which is what meditation means in Sanskrit. Become familiar. So the more you listen to your thoughts without distraction, meditation, the more you go for a walk without your phone, the more you go to the toilet without your phone, just let yourself think, the more you let yourself breathe, the more connected you will be to yourself. Happiness is an inside job and it's a choice and it's your birthright. Much love. And thank you, Matt, for these wonderful podcasts to help people heal from the inside out. You're a legend.
Well, it's been my pleasure. It's always, we haven't connected in a little while and I thought we were a little bit overdue.
I'd love to come back on again. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Body's Compass podcast with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Daniela Mallozzi. Check out Daniela's Instagram at Daniela the Happiness Queen or her website at www.thehappinessqueen.com. If you liked this week's episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a warm review. Please share this episode with someone you think it might help. If you want to find out more, give us a follow on Instagram at The Body Compass, subscribe to Matt's YouTube at Matt Sorensen Live, or swing by heelhub.net. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.